They say a man can't outrun his past. What they never mention is what happens when he stops running. This is the story of Rhett Vail, where a branded wrist became proof of a soul still standing. Under the wide, merciless skies of the Old West, it all began with one moment of mercy. Before we kick off this adventure, don't forget to hit like on the video and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. You ever cross the law just to stand on the right side of things? I did. I sheltered a woman marked as a runaway, put men in the ground when they came hunting her, and became exactly what a Texas court had already decided: I was a criminal. Strange thing is, sometimes you have to wear the mask they give you just to prove there's still a man underneath. Name's Rhett Vail. That's all that's left of it. I lost my given name back in '71 the day a Texas judge looked at my dark blood and saw guilt where there wasn't any. Judge Reuben Clay called it justice. 3 years inside a stone pit teaches you a couple hard truths, friend. You learn how to read a lie the way other men read scripture, and you learn how to kill clean when there's no other choice. December of '76. I was cutting elk sign through a Wyoming whiteout when I saw her half buried in a drift, wrapped in a shredded travel dress, fear blazing in her eyes. A wiser man would have ridden on. I didn't. Folks had already decided what kind of man I was. I figured I'd be damned before I proved them right. That choice stepping down from the saddle took everything I thought I wanted and handed me the only thing I'd ever need. You'll see what I mean soon enough. She was light in my arms, nothing but bone and breath. I could feel every rib through the thin calico, her lips blue as frozen steel skin, cold as river ice. But she was alive. Barely. I threw her across the saddle and turned for my cabin as the storm howled in earnest, the kind that swallows men whole. My horse knew the trail when my eyes didn't. Took near an hour to make it home. All the way there, one thought kept gnawing at me. What in God's name am I doing? A lone woman in high country only means trouble. Either she's fleeing something cruel or something cruel is closing in. Shouldn't have mattered. Still, my hands never loosened their hold. Guess a few years in chains will change what a man decides is worth the risk. I got her inside. The fire was down to embers, but dry kindling brought it roaring back. I laid her near the hearth. I cut away the frozen dress, don't get the wrong idea. The woman was dying. Decency comes second when death's knocking. I stripped her to her chemise, wrapped her in every blanket I owned, worked her hands and feet until blood stirred again. Her eyes fluttered open while I worked. Dark eyes. Brown, maybe hazel. Firelight made it hard to tell. Fear, though, that I saw clear as day. The wild panic of something cornered. Easy, I said, keeping my voice low. You're safe. My name's Rhett Vail. You nearly froze out on the ridge. She tried to bolt. She even fought me with those numb, half-dead hands, stronger than she had any right to be. Whoa now, I won't hurt you. I raised my palms and stepped back. You can leave once you're steady, but step outside right now and you won't last 10 minutes. That stopped her. She glanced at the door, at the wind battering the shutters, then back to me, measuring, weighing. Sharp mind. Water, she rasped. Her voice sounded like gravel dragged over ice. I hand her a tin cup. She drinks like someone who's wandered dry country too long. When she finishes, she pulls the blanket tight to her chest and studies me in silence. Like a skittish filly ready to bolt if I move wrong. I've got stew, I tell her. Elk. Took it yesterday. You should eat. She gives a small nod, says nothing. She goes through 3 bowls while I look the other way. No mystery there, she'd been starving. When she's done, she sets the dish down careful and finally meets my eyes. Thank you. Nothing owed, I say. I can't pay you. I didn't ask. She keeps looking at me, then really looking. The scar along my jaw. The burned mark on my wrist I never fully managed to hide. Reading my past the same way I'm reading hers. You're not going to ask why I'm out here. If you want me to know, you'll say. And if I don't, I shrug. Then it stays your business. Storm breaks come morning you ride on. That's what I told myself. Should have known better. By dawn, the world was buried, snow-piled 10 feet high. Couldn't dig out if we tried. We were stuck. A week, at least. Maybe 2. You trap 2 hurt animals in one small place, one of 2 things happens. They tear each other apart, or they learn to trust. No middle ground. First couple days, she barely looks my way, keeps to one corner. Blankets wrapped tight. I don't crowd her. I keep to my chores. Check traps, split wood, clean my rifle. Same old rhythm. But the cabin's small, 16 by 20 feet. No place to disappear in a room like that. Third night, I'm mending tack by firelight when she finally speaks. Why'd you do it? Do what helped me. You don't know me. I could be running from the law. I don't lift my eyes from the leather. Could be. Could be I'm more trouble than I'm worth. Likely are. Then why I look up then meet her gaze? Because once nobody lifted a hand for me when it mattered. I go back to my work. Figured I'd try being a different kind of man than the ones who let me rot. She's quiet a long while. Then, what did they brand you for? My hand moves to my wrist before I think better of it. The scar's raised and ugly. A deep-burned assault Judge Reuben Clay called it. They said I touched a white woman wrong. Her husband's word against mine. Take a guess which one the court believed. Did you do it? No, ma'am. But I'm half Mexican. That was enough. She nods slow like she knows what it means to be judged for things you can't change. My name's She stops, shakes her head. No. Better you don't know it, she says softly. Safer that way. For you, for both. And then by firelight and howling wind, she starts telling me her story. It takes most of the night. I pour whiskey for both of us, and we sit close to the fire, while the wind claws at the walls. Little by little, she lays out the whole ugly truth. Her father, Morris Quinn, was a merchant in Cheyenne. A decent man, she says. Straight dealing. Honest to a fault. But honest men don't last long in a country built by liars. He borrowed money from the wrong hands, $5,000 meant to cover losses that never turned around. When he couldn't repay it, they came with an offer. Braddock Holt, a cattle king who already owned half of Wyoming, wanted the rest. And he wanted her, not as a wife, she says, staring down into her glass. He made that clear enough. He called it a housekeeper. That was the word he used. But she'd seen his ranch, seen the whips and chains hanging in his bedroom, seen the woman who held that job before her, the woman who could barely walk when she left. Her hands are trembling now. I don't reach for her. I just listen. Holt gave her 3 days to choose. Her father begged her, said it would only be for a year, just long enough to clear the debt, said Holt was a gentleman. She lets out a short, bitter laugh. Men like Holt don't want companionship. They want something pretty to ruin, something they can own. So you ran? I say. So I ran. I stole a horse from the stage yard and rode through the night. She made it to the ridge before the horse went down. She looks at me. That's where you found me. I don't say anything. I'm doing the math now. By the law, she's in the wrong. Her father's debt gives Holt a claim. Running makes her a thief. And me sheltering her makes me an accomplice. I'd already lost 3 years to a crime I never committed. I had no interest in swinging for one I had. She must see it on my face. She stands fast. I'll leave. Soon as the storm breaks. You've done enough. Sit down, I say. She doesn't move. I said sit down. She does. I pour another round. You ever notice I tell her how the law always seems to shield the folks who don't need it? A rich man can buy a judge. A poor man can't even afford the truth. I take a drink. Learned that lesson the hard way. She looks at me. So what are you saying? I'm saying the law. And what's right don't always walk the same trail. And I spent enough years obeying rules that never gave a damn about me. Her eyes widen. You're going to help me, I didn't say that. I lean back. I said, I'm not turning you in. There's a difference. We both understand the rest. One wounded soul becomes two. The storm keeps piling snow against the walls, and somewhere in all that cold and white, something between us changes. She learns to shoot. I teach her with my old Colt revolver, the gun, not the man, though I reckon that gets confusing. She's steady. Natural. Picks it up fast. Ban ko tichtin kach naikong squeeze. Don't yank, I tell Elma Quinn. I stand close behind her, guiding her hands, keeping my touch light. Easy, careful. Treat it like something you want to keep happy. She fires, dead center. She turns with a smile that nearly knocks the breath out of me. Like that? Yeah, I say. Just like that. She gives me more than she takes. Shows me how to cook meals that don't taste like scorched meat and beans. Fixes my clothes so they don't look stitched by a blind man. At night, she reads aloud from a small book she carried, hidden in her dress, poetry of all things. I act like it doesn't move me. It does. And I start noticing things. The way she moves. Quiet, efficient. The line of her neck when she braids her hair. The sound of her laugh when I tell her about the time I tried breaking a wild Mustang and landed in a water trough. One night while we're washing dishes, she asks out of nowhere, "You ever been with a woman, Rhett Vail?" That's not a proper question, ma'am. She raises a brow. We're living in a cabin smaller than most prison cells, I add. I reckon we passed proper days ago. She's smiling, teasing. Yes, I admit. I've been with women. Did you love them? No. The truth comes easier than I expect. Why not? Because loving someone gives them the power to hurt you. Prison taught me that. She dries a plate, slow thinking. Sounds lonely. Safer than the alternative. She looks at me, then really looks at me. Something moves between us. Something warm and reckless and dangerous. Maybe she says, quietly, "Safety don't mean much if you're alone." I don't answer. She's right, and I know it. Fourth week, the storm finally breaks. I'm 5 miles out checking traps when I see tracks. 4 horses. Their patterns tight, organized, hunting. I keep low follow at a distance until I hear voices. Braddock Holt wants her back. Dead or alive doesn't much matter. She's nearby. Couldn't have gone far in this weather. There's a cabin up on Bear Creek Ridge, one of the Holt riders says. Trapper lives there. We check it tomorrow. My blood turns to ice. I'm back at the cabin before dark. Elma knows something's wrong the second I step inside. They're coming, I say. Not here yet, but soon. I start pulling supplies together. We leave at first light. Head north, Montana Territory, Montana. Her eyes widen. That's 200 miles through winter mountains. I meet her gaze. Different laws up there. Homesteading land. A chance to start clean. A man and a woman could stake a claim. Wipe the slate clean. She goes perfectly still. A man and a woman, she says. Yeah. She studies me. You'd really do that, gamble everything on someone you barely know. That's where I could have dressed it up. Said it was duty. Said it was the righteous thing. Played the hero. I'm done with lies. I tell her. Because somewhere in the last month, you stopped being a stranger. And I stopped being alone. I drag a hand through my hair. It's reckless. Might get us both killed. But I'm tired of pretending I don't care. She crosses the cabin, in 3 quick steps, cups my face, and kisses me like she's been holding it back for weeks. I kiss her back because I have been. We should sleep, I say when we finally part. We ride before dawn. Sleep can wait, she whispers. What happens next? Some things stay between 4 walls and firelight. But I'll tell you this. I'd been alone 10 years. 10 years of cold blankets and colder nights. That night, with Elma Quinn in my arms, her breath warm against my neck, her body pressed close, I remembered what it felt like to be human, to be wanted, to be whole. We loved slow and careful by the fire's glow. When it was over, she slept with her head on my shoulder, the first real rest I'd had in years. We rode out before dawn. 2 horses, light packs, northbound through the high passes. Didn't make 10 miles. The canyon tightened to maybe 30 feet across sheer rock climbing on both sides. That's where they waited. 4 men, rifles up, and Braddock Holt's voice rolling off the stone. End of the trail, boy. I step in front of her. Let her go. You want me? That's where you're wrong. He rides closer. 50, maybe. Eyes hard as cut flint eyes that never learned the meaning of no. She belongs to me. Her father signed. Law's on my side. Law written by men like you, I say. Don't make it right. Right, Holt laughs. I don't give a damn about right. I paid for her. What's mine stays mine. That's when she steps past me. Stands straight even though I see the fear shaking her hands. I belong to nobody, she says, voice steady. My father's weakness doesn't make me your property. Holt's face darkens. Get back here, girl, or I'll put a round through your savior. No, she says. You won't. You need me alive. That's the only way you win. I can still hurt him, Holt says, lifting his rifle toward me. Make him scream. Make him beg. You want to watch that I see her face falter. See the math turning behind her eyes. Her freedom for my life. Don't I tell her? Don't you dare? She's already moving when it happens. The rifle misfires. Braddock Holt swears and works the liver. That heartbeat of time is all I need. I'm on him before his riders can blink. I yank him off the saddle. We hit the snow, hard rolling fists and boots, and rage tangled together. There's no honor in a fight like that. Only survival. I smash my forehead into his face and feel bone give. He answers with a knife I never saw coming, driving it into my ribs. Pain flashes white hot enough to blind. I've lived through worse. Prison taught me how to keep moving. I wrench the blade free. I pin him down. And I could end it. Should. One cut and it's finished. Everything solved. But I look up and see Elma Quinn watching. See the man I want to be reflected in her eyes. Go home. Holt, I say, gasping blood soaking through my shirt. Tell people she froze in the storm. Collect your debt however you like. But you leave her be. And if I don't, he snarls. Next time I say steady as I can manage, I won't stop. His men drag him back. The Holt riders retreat, slow rifles still raised unsure. I pull my gun from the snow hands, shaking, but aim true. Go. They go. We make it 3 miles north before I start to fade. Blood loss turns the world soft at the edges. Elma keeps me upright, keeps me moving. At the Shoshone camp, the medicine woman Fern, old as the hill's hands knotted like roots, takes one look and gets to work. She packs the wound with herbs that burn like fire, stitches me closed with sinew, and whispered prayers. I wake 3 days later. Elma's asleep beside me, her hand wrapped around mine. I thought I lost you, she whispers when she sees my eyes open. Didn't I say managing a smile? I'm harder to kill than I look. Thank God for that. The Shoshone chief Ash Crow offers us shelter, says we can stay through winter, heal, then head north when the thaw comes. No questions, no judgment, just honor the rare kind. We stay. Spring arrives. We file a homestead claim under her real name in Montana Territory. Out there, nobody asks about your past. Nobody cares who you were, only who you choose to be. We build a cabin together, small at first, like the one in Wyoming. But it's ours, raised by our own hands, standing on our own ground. At night, with her asleep beside me, I think about Judge Reuben Clay and the brand he burned into my skin. About Holt and his money. About every man who ever tried to own what couldn't be owned. They thought they took everything from me. Turns out they gave me the only thing I ever needed, a reason to be better. You're probably wondering if it all turned into some clean, pretty ending. If this is the kind of tale where love fixes everything, and the sun dips low while we ride off into it. Truth is, it's plainer than that, and heavier. We lived. That's the honest answer. We carved out a life where the law couldn't reach us and the past lost our scent. We raised 2 children, Rhett Vail and Rhett Vail, a boy and a girl. We taught them how to shoot straight and think straighter. Taught them that honor isn't about obeying every rule handed down. It's about knowing which rules are worth keeping. She never once said she loved me. Never had to. Some truths don't need saying. Me, I tell her every morning. I wasted too many years keeping my mouth shut to waste another day now. The brand on my wrist never faded. Likely never will. Sometimes she traces it with her fingers soft as falling ash. Says it's proof I survived. Proof that other people's judgment doesn't get to decide who you are. Folks say a man can't outrun his past. Maybe that's so. But out here under this wide Montana sky with her walking beside me, I don't feel the need to run. I just try to keep being the man she believes I am when she looks my way. That's all the redemption a man like me ever earns. Stories from the frontier aren't really about the West when you get down to it. They're about being human, and that's something we all share. Finally, let me send my deep thanks to you. Thank you for listening. If this story has touched your heart, I invite you to stay with us to discover more true tales of the Wild West. Stories that honor resilience, tenderness, and the spirit that God placed in those who blazed the trail. Subscribe, share, leave your thoughts in the comments, and join us once again to journey across this untamed land. Thank you. Aviso legal/disclaimer. These stories are crafted purely for entertainment and may contain imaginative additions or dramatic interpretations inspired by old frontier eras. We use AI-based resources, voice imagery, and drafting as part of our creative process, but every final detail is carefully reviewed and shaped by human effort to preserve emotional depth and authenticity. We strictly follow YouTube's rules regarding AI-generated content and refrain from deepfakes, altered identities, or misleading representations. All images, sounds, and related materials are lawfully obtained. Please do not reuse, modify, or distribute any portion of this content without written permission. Thank you for valuing creativity, respect, and original work.